Lundin of Gold Newsletter and the New Orleans Investment Conference, and I am hosting a very interesting webinar today built for this market. And a little bit of history of how this started. I was at a recent conference in Vancouver, and some representatives of the Discovery Group asked me if I could, I'm sorry, it doesn't look like I'm on stage right now. I was asked if I would host a webinar featuring some Discovery Group companies. I immediately said yes, generally speaking, because the gold price and the silver price and the metals in general have been really rocketing higher absent or outside of the recent correction. And where we are right now is that the markets are biding time, the metals are biding time, kind of trading in a range and coiling for what I believe will be the next breakout. And generally speaking, this is the time where you want to really look at the mining stocks that have yet to really get priced appropriately for current metals prices. If you look over the history of this now 2-year-old bull market in gold and nearly 2 year, or not quite as long, but still very significant bull market in silver, you see that periodically we've had these sideways trading actions where the market has rested a bit, not really corrected very significantly, but rested a bit before continuing the rally. The biggest rallies have come during the very few actual corrections we've had in this trend. And of course, we just had one of those. So looking at the markets right now, and I put a piece out just today, I think we're in one of those periods. I think it's fairly obvious we're in one of those periods where the markets have a strong bias to the upside. Gold and silver have a strong bias to the upside, but are still consolidating and recovering from the recent correction. This again is the time to look for ways to leverage the next rally. So specifically, I was interested in doing this webinar because it was with the Discovery Group, a group that has had numerous successes in this market because they do things the right way with the right projects and with the right people. And that's a powerful recipe that has been proven over and over again in the market. And even more specifically, when they told me the 3 companies that would be featured in this webinar, I was particularly excited because I think all 3 of these companies have a very good chance of being among the biggest winners in the Discovery stable ever and in the entire junior resource market. And that's saying a lot considering successes like Great Bear Resources, which was an 85x winner for readers of my Gold Newsletter Alert service. So that kind of sets the stage on what we're going to be talking about today. Those are my views on the metals, my views on the mining market in general. And as we talk with all 3 companies, I'm going to also give you my views on each company, and we'll take questions from the audience. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the first of our companies, Prospector Metals. And we have Rob Carpenter, the driving force behind Prospector here. Rob, Prospector was my top recommendation in Gold Newsletter a year before you even drilled. And I may have been the most bullish, maybe even more bullish on the Emerald prospect than you before you started to drill. But now, after the drills have turned and after you've gotten these extraordinary results, you are seen to me to be supremely confident and excited in what you have here. So please give us a story in Prospector, and if you will, tell us where that excitement lies, especially about the potential, and and why you see perhaps a potential duplicates of the test discovery elsewhere on the property.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate the introduction. And again, yes, you were one of the very first, if not the first person to recognize what we were trying to do before the drills started turning. So I do appreciate that. Can everybody, I'm assuming everyone can see my slide up now. I'm just going to touch on a brief introduction to the company, I won't be able to go into any detail. I'm hoping you can, if anyone's interested, please follow up with us later. Disclosure, we take our technical disclosure very seriously. We disclose all of our drill results, every map, every section. We find now that investors are requiring that. We have a very strong and sophisticated shareholder base, and they ask very good questions. So we try to get the information out there before you have that question. And I've noticed that ChatGPT and AI have made a really large number of armchair geologists out there that come up with some pretty good questions as well. So if you have any comments on how we disclose our information, please let us know. One thing that Brien taught me in my first New Orleans conference, probably more than 20 years ago, was that there's three things you need to consider when investing in junior mining. It's the people, it's the project, and it's the corporate structure. And I've kept that in mind since the beginning of my career, and each of those is vitally important. When it comes to people in Prospector, a lot of Yukon experience here, which is important. John Robbins and I started a company called Kodiak Gold, which Brien, your readers probably know, back in 2005, which is in the Yukon as well. In 2010, we drilled our first discovery hole. And in that first 3-year period, we made over a dozen drill discoveries. That company was eventually bought by Goldcorp. What I think is very important for people to understand is those first 3 years of the discovery stage, where year one, you hit the tail of the tiger, and then you learn to crack the code on what's working for exploration. That means year two becomes critical, and year two is usually where all of the most discoveries are happened. And in our ML project in Yukon, we just got that tiger by the tail in 2025 with about a 6,000 meter drill program. In 2026, we're coming in with a 25,000 meter program, trying to flesh out that system and really unlock those multiple discoveries. When it comes to the project itself, this is a very rare discovery stage opportunity for Yukon. Most of the so-called intrusion-related gold systems have already seen a number of exploration holes or have seen a generation or more or many cycles. This project sat dormant for over 25 years for a lot of different reasons, but it was really completely overlooked and misunderstood. Our team recognized it early as a great opportunity that provided an exceptionally rich, high-grade nature of mineralization. And that's one of the things that this project has in common with what we were talking about at Kodiak, was the very high-grade nature of the gold, which I think separates this project from a lot of its peer group in the area. With corporate structure, it's important to have the key shareholders. And without saying too much, we do have a strategic investor, a major mining company who produces gold, B2 Gold. They own 19.9% of the company. They're a very proactive group. They're great technically. For any other junior company out there listening, I would recommend B2 as a partner. They're terrific in the boardroom and in the field as well. Treasury right now, we have over $40 million in cash. We did a raise in the fall. Our program for 2026 is about 15 million, 1-5. So we have more than enough cash to implement our program for next year, as well as ramp up as we require. A little bit of a 2025 summary. Early in May, we raised about $4 million or so, and we did our drilling, and we started putting some results out. In September, we put out what I thought was a phenomenal result in one of our prospects, Scarn Ridge, with over 2 ounces per ton, over 2 meters, and 4.5 grams gold over 10 meters. And the market yawned at this. Everybody except for Brien. Brien got on the bandwagon and said, "Why is nobody paying attention to these results?" And we were trading at probably about 20 cents at the time. Well, a couple of weeks later, we put out our test discovery hole, and that's when the market started paying attention. And this was the exceptional high grades. The financing happened in November, and I would like to say that was a non-brokered financing where we paid no fees and no warrants. So that was an important milestone. B2 led that financing. And then we put the final results out in December of 2025, again with some exceptional high-grade gold, and you'll notice copper numbers as well. That's an interesting thing that separates this project again from its peer group in the Yukon, is the exceptional high-grade copper numbers, silver numbers accompanying the gold. So very exciting high-grade mineralogy. A little bit on the results without getting too geological. You can see a table there of our drill result from hole 31. And you can see hole 31 on the left there, underneath that cross section, 13.79 grams per ton gold, almost 2% copper over 44 meters. And what you can see is in that diagram, that sort of grayish topography, is those mustard yellow looking linear trends. Well, what those are satellite imagery of rusty or gossiness rocks that are commonly associated with sulfide gold deposits. And we found this through our satellite imagery. And what you can see how they track along those fault zones. And we think those represent undrilled portions of this new test zone. And there's also multiple zones as well that occur parallel to each other. So we think we've cracked the code here on the exploration. We think we know what these things look like. And we're going to be very aggressive, not only in trying to expand the new test discovery, but also finding multiple lookalikes. So again, back into 2026, 4 times the program size in 2025. So instead of 6,000 meters, it's going to be over 25,000. The drilling is going to start in early May, as well as there's going to be 3 drills. The first drill is going to be extending that test zone that I just showed you. Second drill will be designed to look for test lookalikes within that area. And the third drill is going to be plucking off or drilling new discoveries throughout the district. And on this map here, just quickly, it's about a 15K map, a 15K north-south and 5K east-west. And all those purple and red dots represent individual rock samples on surface that run at least 5 grams. And in fact, on this project, there's dozens of multiple plus 10 gram per ton grab samples that have never been drilled. So we think there's still a lot of exploration, low-hanging fruit here, which again, going into our second year of drilling is vital. A lot of folks think that you've missed the boat as an investor after that first drill hole. And I can honestly say it really does take 3 years to flush out all of these discoveries. That was our experience at Kodiak, and it definitely paid off for shareholders. Year 2, now that we feel that we've cracked the code and we have an understanding of how these things form, it's going to be a very systematic drill program, trying to really bust down the door, if you will. And I think that's it. I appreciate your time, Brien and everybody. Again, reach out to us if you have any questions. I'm sure there's a ton of questions. We're always excited to talk to shareholders.
Rob, thank you for that. I especially thank you for giving me so much credit during your presentation. Hopefully Anthony will do the same in his presentation for K2. I can use all the support I can get. But moving on to K2, Anthony Marguerite is going to give us this story, a very exciting story. And Anthony, you waited for permits in a very mining-friendly area of California, but still, it was, I know, a process that taxed your patience and probably shareholders as well. But you persevered and broke free just recently, and with drills turning. I know you're going to do this in your presentation, but I think it's important to tell our audience why this project, why the Mojave project was worth the wait, and based on what you've seen, the work you've done, but also some of the truly extraordinary previous drill intersections that were done on this property. As a shareholder, I'm very excited for what's about to come in the very near future. And I think you're going to do a good job of telling our audience why they should be as well. So handing it over to you.
Thanks a lot, Brien. And that was a great introduction. I really appreciate the time and your participation in the webinar here. As you were mentioning, I think K2 has been a permitting story for the last couple of years. December 1st, our final environmental impact statement was published by the Bureau of Land Management in the state of California. And it was very nice to see in the BLM's, the Bureau of Land Management's own news release in big bold letters that this area is open to mining and mineral exploration. So with that, we'll get into the presentation here. I'm definitely going to be making some forward-looking statements, but I do not have a slide for that. So let's start with the location. So this is the California-Nevada border we're looking at here on the right side of the blue triangle. In dark gray in the background, that's a Walker Lane trend. So geology doesn't pay attention to borders and boundaries, thankfully. And this slide, just a great example of operating mines in the area. We operate out of the little town of Lone Pine, California. There's about 2,000 people. We've got great support in the community and love working there. It's a great location. I get asked all the time what excites me about the Mojave project. So the first thing is the grade. Our best hole to date on the property is 86.9 meters at 4 grams per ton gold at the Dragonfly target area. That's all oxide material, and mineralization begins at surface. Last fall, we had crews out sampling and prospecting about 1.5 kilometers north of that drill hole, and they recovered a 375 gram per ton gold sample, another 142.5 gram per ton gold sample, probably more than 6 30+ gram samples. So a new discovery area. This area has never been drilled. It's on the same structures. And I think one thing to keep in mind here, without getting too deep in the technical side of things, what we're looking at and dealing with on the east side gold zone here is multiple parallel stack structures. These structures dip steeply at about 70 degrees, and they're through-going structures. So getting up to that Gold Valley location is going to be very interesting for us, and we'll be getting there this year. Next thing is a scale. We're over 6,000 hectares here, and this is a true polymetallic system. Although we're focused on this east side gold trend right now, we have identified a number of other polymetallic targets, which we'll get into in a few minutes. And finally here, it's an active historic mining region. As I showed on the slide earlier, Equinox's Castle Mountain mine is about 100 kilometers to the southeast. Andean Precious Metals came in and acquired the Golden Queen mine about 120 kilometers to the southwest of us back in December 2024. It was great to see some new blood and new life in the area. They're great neighbors. So here's what I was mentioning earlier about the polymetallic system. We're focused on this Dragonfly to Newmont zone on the east side. Gold Valley up at the north end there is a new discovery area that hasn't been drilled, as well as the Flores target area where we've got a 42.5 meter continuous chip sample that runs about 4.2 grams. So at this point, we've got 5 near surface high grade oxide gold targets, 4 copper trends, and 4 distinct silver lead zinc trends. There's over 200 historic mines and workings on the property. These are all 80 to 100 years old, but just proving the intensity of surface mineralization on the property and the high grade. The old timers that were working the area, they weren't targeting anything that was running less than about 1 ounce per ton. Move on to the next slide here. This is a very interesting area that we haven't talked a lot about. We were, again, last fall, crews out sampling and prospecting in this area. This is directly adjacent to the Cerro Gordo silver mine. That mine was the largest silver producer in California in the mid-19th century. At its peak production in 1874, it was producing almost 250,000 ounces of silver per day. So translate that into today's silver prices, and it was an extremely rich producer. We've got 3 historic gold mines on this part of the property: the Sunset Mine, the Ignacio Mine, and the Morningstar Mine. But just great to see the grades coming out of here, consistent plus 4 or 5 gram material gold, and the silver numbers are tremendous out here. So multi-kilo samples of silver. This area hasn't been drilled in any recent time. We'll be getting out here very soon, and really looking forward to getting out here, drilling off these targets and seeing what they produce. Quickly, there's the silver numbers, but just really, really interesting area. And now we'll move on to our SI2 project. So we are currently drilling this right now. It's located in Nevada. So we're just outside of Tonopah, about 60 kilometers west of Tonopah. I'm going to talk about a little bit about AngloGold Ashanti's Silicon discovery here. We view our SI2 project as an analog to Silicon. Both of these properties were staked and optioned from Origin royalties. Origin is a project generator. They came out with a concept to look for preserved epithermal systems. So most of the operating gold mines and historic gold mines in the Walker Lane trend here are epithermal systems. Origin took a different slant at it and started looking at these preserved epithermal systems. They had first mover advantage on this. No one else was looking for these targets at the time. And we acquired the SI2 project in January of 2022. A month later, in February, AngloGold Ashanti released their maiden resource at 3.1 million ounces. That's now over 16 million ounces. And this discovery really shook up the Nevada exploration scene. All of a sudden, there's a new style of target on the table to look at. We drilled 4 holes into this in 2023 and had some interesting results. Nothing that the market was very interested in, but it really proved to us the potential of this system. So based on those results, this was the first hole on the left here that we drilled into the system. You can see I can't really point, which is unfortunate, but the far left drill hole that we're looking at, the bottom of that hole, we lost the hole, unfortunately, due to difficult drilling conditions, but that hole ran 0.5 gram of gold for 3.2 meters. That was interesting to us. We stepped in with our second hole. We had 185 meters of continuous gold mineralization. It was low grade, but it proved to us that the system was moving a lot of hot gold bearing fluid. At that point, we started to do a bit of a deeper dive into the scientific side of this. We did some clay analysis using spectral work, and we're able to define that this is a low sulfidation epithermal system, which is what we wanted. Interesting thing, or important thing to note here, these epithermal systems, especially the preserved ones, most of the gold is deposited in the boiling zone of these systems. So if you think of this, 25 million years ago, this was an active hot spring. You see a specific type of alteration at surface, but we were really trying to target the boiling zone, and we didn't know if that 0.5 gram of gold was the best we would see, if that was in the boiling zone or not. So we did some fluid inclusion work, and what that entails is a pretty deep dive into the existing drill core, and using encapsulated microscopic bubbles, basically, you can fingerprint the temperature of emplacement. So you can see high up in the system, we're at 136 degrees. As you move down through the system, the temperature is increasing. The boiling zone of these systems is 220 to 250 degrees. So this proved to us that 0.5 gram, it's over 3.2 meters, simply wasn't deep enough. Next step was a little bit of geophysics and a little bit more science. This plane that we're looking at, the straight line that angles at about 60 degrees coming across, you can see the 2 pre-existing drill holes there, as well as our calculated boiling levels, showing that we did not quite reach that boiling zone. We did an IP survey over the area and came up with this beautiful chargeability anomaly at depth. It coincides with the calculated boiling level. As I mentioned, we're drilling these targets right now. That was the first hole that you can see into it. We've drilled 3 holes into this area right now. We've got another 3 on deck. Be drilling here for the rest of the month, maybe into the first week of March. And at that point, we'll give the crew a week or so to reset, and we'll be moving over to the Mojave project. Mojave is the company's flagship, 100%. If we have any luck at all here at SI2, this project could seriously take on a life of its own. The truth is, we are dying to get back to Mojave and get drilling there. As Brien was mentioning earlier, I don't think the geology or the mineralization at Mojave has ever been the issue. It's been unlocking access to it, and we've just done that. We are standing on the doorstep and ready to get after it. So that's a brief overview of our projects that are active right now. And if anyone would like to get more information or do a deeper dive into things, please reach out. I'm very easy to get a hold of. Look forward to speaking with you.
Thanks, Anthony. I had meant to ask each company questions after their presentation. So, Rob, we'll get back to you after all the presentations. I have some questions for you as well. But, Anthony, one of the things that's really impressed me about K2 has been how it's been a smart money play. I know a number of people who are putting up big money into this company, and your share price has certainly shown it, but nobody's been intimidated by the rise in your share price. You recently did a financing that you had to seriously upsize because of the interest. And so could you talk to us a little bit about to whatever extent you can, the types of investors that are coming into this play right now, what they're seeing, and really, what are they looking at right now? What are they so excited about, SI2 or Mojave? Because either one is a company maker in my view, and Mojave has enough targets on it for any 3 or 4 junior mining companies, in my opinion. So what's the big interest here? Why is everybody getting so excited?
Yeah, thanks, Brien. I think I'll backtrack a little bit here. So when we were permitting, once we saw the potential in Mojave and decided to permit it at the highest level, we took that very seriously. We would not have gone through the effort and time to get through the permitting process if this wasn't a really special project. I think, just with a brief overview we talked about there, this property shows significant potential. I think Chris Taylor is an advisor, previous CEO at Great Bear, and Chris previously held this property in Great Bear Resources in the early days. It's an expensive land package to hold. Unfortunately, they couldn't keep their hands on it at that point, and luckily moved on to Dixie, which was a tremendous outcome there. But throughout the permitting process, we acquired the SI2 project to stay active in exploration. I don't really think that we get a lot of credit for the project in the market. So, Mojave is definitely the focus. I think if we don't have success at SI2, I don't expect we'd get seriously punished in the market for that, especially with drilling at Mojave coming up right away. But, through that permitting process, we were financing along the way at 10 to 15 cents with a 30-cent warrant, which was a bit of a stretch in a difficult market, but we were able to make it happen. Thankfully, we've got very loyal shareholders. And our strategy was that we believed as we got closer to the acquisition of the permit for Mojave, our share price would creep up and reflect that. And, it was great to see the market react that way. I wish I could say I expected gold to be at $5,000 while that was happening. But throughout October, late September and October, we had over 30 million warrants exercised, which brought in over $11 million, $11.4 million into our treasury. So that was a huge milestone for the company. It also cleared the warrant overhang. So currently we've got about 7 million warrants outstanding at 30 cents. They expire in March. They're in the hands of a very small group of people. We expect all of those to be coming in. And as you mentioned, we just closed a $25 million non-brokered private placement yesterday. There's no warrants associated with that, no broker warrants. Once we clear this warrant overhang, we don't expect to be issuing warrants going forward. Currently, we're cashed up over $35 million in the treasury and getting ready to go. So I think that's kind of where we're at right now. I hope I answered your questions there.
Yeah, I think you did. Exciting stuff. I mean, that financing, no warrants were needed to get that money in, and you had to dramatically upsize it. So
yeah, we've got some great names and backing in there. I'm really
yeah, and smart investors too. It should give the investors out there in the general market an idea of what you have coming. I mean, Mojave is 3 or 4 lottery tickets in one project. SI2 is certainly a big lottery ticket.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Chris Taylor, who was one of the smartest individuals and most successful in the industry today, and a key mover behind our next company, Kodiak Copper. And Claudia, I think, is going to join us now to talk about it. Claudia Turnquist, who is CEO of Kodiak Copper. And Claudia, your project is really exciting to me, and it was always exciting as a discovery play and building resources and the number of targets that you have on MPD. But we were talking recently, not too long ago, about the potential that the company offers outside of the exploration upside, that just by advancing your current resource, which you just fairly recently showed the market, advancing that along the progressing it through a PEA and de-risking would get you to a level of your peers that are trading of similar resources at 4 to 5 times your current market value. So I love the company because you've got that really exciting exploration potential, but also you're backstopped by a resource that will grow in value just simply by following the path that you already have laid out ahead. So I hope I didn't steal any of your thunder here, but please elaborate on all of that and more as you give us the story for Kodiak Copper.
Thank you, Brien, and thanks for that great introduction. And let me dive right in. A quick overview of what makes Kodiak an interesting and exciting opportunity at this time. We are in copper gold exploration, and copper, of course, a critical mineral that's heading for a supply crunch. Lots of demand from AI, electrification, and so on, but very few new discoveries and a very depleted pipeline of new projects, and new discoveries, new projects urgently needed. So great place to be for Kodiak. Management, Brien just mentioned Chris Taylor, obviously very important part of Kodiak's success. Chris is the founder and chairman and very much leads the technical side of Kodiak, and of course has a fantastic track record of generating value for shareholders, 2 billion for shareholders from his previous company, Great Bear. Our project, MPD, is located in British Columbia, and British Columbia is a fantastic place to work. We've made the best experience so far. Very mining friendly, very safe, and obviously mining and resources a big part of the British Columbia economy. So it's really a place where mines get permitted and built. And where our project is located in southern British Columbia, we are in an well-established, long-established mining district. And that, of course, is a big advantage. We are right between two of Canada's largest copper mines. And in the region, there is all the infrastructure you need for exploration. Massive advantage, makes our exploration very cost effective, and will, of course, be an even bigger advantage as we move forward and it comes to building a mine in the future. A whole lot easier to do in an existing mining district than in remote locations where many other projects are located. Our project, MPD, is a copper-gold porphyry project. When we picked it up, our vision was right from the start that it is a project that has the potential to become a major mine in the future. And we have now, over 7 years, systematically consolidated the district and drilled and explored. In total, we drilled 90,000 meters, so big drill programs every year. And that brought us now to a major milestone for the company. Just now in December, we came out with the maiden resource. And I will speak more about this in a minute. Let me quickly touch on our capital structure. We are about 100 million market cap at this time, have 8 million cash in the treasury, so well funded, warrant money coming in as we speak, and we are tightly held, so are still below 100 million shares outstanding, 96 million at this time, even after many years of successful exploration and $56 million raised. We were able to maintain the dilution for our shareholders moderate. Last but not least, as Brien highlighted, it's a fantastic time to look at Kodiak or other exploration stories. I believe we're at the start of the next bull run and commodities upswing, and just seeing a period of consolidation. So really good time to look at juniors such as Kodiak and lots of opportunity. Our maiden resource, as I said, a very big, important milestone for the company. There's a very big difference between saying we think we have a project that has the potential to become a major mine and actually having numbers to show that that's the case. So here's the goods, our maiden resource. We have 7 deposits, 7 open pits. You can see them on the image on the right. And between indicated and inferred resource, we have some 440 million tons of mineralization and 0.39% copper equivalent, the grade for the indicated, and 0.32% copper equivalent for the inferred resource. And adding it all up between inferred and indicated, that gives us 2.4 billion pounds of copper and 1.7 million ounces of gold. The resource was very well received by the market. Our share price is up a lot. I think we started last year at below 40 cents and are now over $1. The reason the market liked the resource is simply that it is already sizable, even though it's only a maiden resource. And the grades look very comparable to other mines in North America, copper mines, or successful projects that are being advanced. So that really showed the market that this project has legs and is a very, very big step in de-risking the project. Now, Brien said very eloquently in one of his newsletters, the maiden resource is a starting point, not a finish line, not a finish line. And that's very much what is the case. So let me talk a bit on what's on the plate going forward. We are planning, as we speak, a big drill program for 2026. And drill program will focus on two things: growing the resource and on new and underexplored targets. Let me talk about resource growth first. As I said, we have 7 deposits, and you see at the left on the image, one of them, Ketchum, and you can see these red arrows that say open. Essentially, all 7 of the deposits are open, and most in multiple directions. And we have many obvious exploration targets, very high probability targets, where we will drill, and there is a good potential we'll be able to add significant tons, pounds, and ounces. So lots of room to grow for our resource, and that will be certainly an important focus in 2026. And importantly, many companies, once they are at resource stage, they slow down with exploration. That won't be the case for Kodiak, because we have, in addition to the 7 deposits we have started with, now at this point, around about 20 targets, and I expect the number of those to grow, of potential future mineralized zones, of potential discoveries. You can see those on the map on the right. The little yellow dots are our 7 deposits that we have now, and the orange dots are all the targets for exploration. So we will also spend some of our drill budget on exploration and look to find the next mineralized zone and make the next discovery. So some exploration, sizzle, and resource growth. That's what's on the plate for 2026 with Kodiak. Brien referred to the opportunity or the potential for Kodiak to catch up with more advanced peers already. The slide sums it up. It shows Kodiak at the moment with a market cap of some 108 million. And compared to peers that are already more advanced than us, copper porphyry explorers in North America that have already a resource, had maybe a resource update, and or are working at PEA stage, so maybe a year or 2 ahead of us. And if you look at those valuations, they are significantly higher than us, between 450 and up to almost 900 million. So by simply continuing to de-risk the project, growing our resource, we will be able to catch up significantly. And that's really the opportunity that is inherent in Kodiak for our shareholders. So very much looking forward to continuing on our path, de-risking the project, while at the same time also exploring for more discoveries. And that brings me to the end of a very quick overview of Kodiak. And you would like to discuss in more detail, obviously, please do reach out. Always happy to speak to investors and shareholders. Thank you.
Thanks, Claudia. You know, as you went through the presentation, I was reminded of the challenge that you face. And it's the kind of challenge any company would want to have. But with 20 some odd targets to expand the resource, and looking at that chart of your peer groups and just what you can achieve in market increase or market valuation increase just by de-risking, continuing to de-risk the project. How do you divide your time and money and priorities among those two? Because from an exploration standpoint, I mean, those are really enticing targets. We've dove into those in some detail in the past, and there's a lot of excitement on growing the resource. But talk to us a little bit about, you know, what else you can do as you're exploring and drilling.
Mm-hmm. We're at the moment just in the process of planning for this year. So watch this space. There will be more details announced soon. What I can say at this stage is that certainly the majority of our drilling will go into growing the resource, because we believe there is a lot of potential. And the one of the key reasons for that is that if you recall the history of our project, we've consolidated it from multiple properties that were historically drilled by previous explorers. And so much of the drilling that went into the resource estimate is actually historical drilling. And that wasn't systematic resource drilling, but it was exploration drilling. And for that reason, lots of gaps, lots of obvious areas to go and expand the resource. So I would say that's the majority of our effort, but we're very excited by all the targets on the property. And I just spoke to a major recently who said, well, why don't you test them all before you even come out with a resource? And I don't think as a junior, that's what we can do, but we will certainly also spend quite a significant part of our drill budget on testing some new targets. And I would think that if you look back at this project in 20 or 30 years time, there's a good chance that there are more deposits than just the 7 we now have when we start out with, because there is still a lot of exploration outside.
Yeah, I remember for so long as you were drilling without a resource that you were very plain and outspoken that you weren't going to come out with a resource until you had one that was sizable enough to actually attract the market's attention. And you've certainly done that. And I think it's encouraging also to realize that a lot of your resource growth can come from simply increasing drill density as opposed to, you know, the high reward, higher risk potential of grassroots discovery. So a great path ahead. And I really appreciate you bringing Kodiak to our attention. And I think we get everybody back here, we can start addressing. And everyone, please, if you have any questions, please submit them through the webinar interface. And I'm going to go back to Rob real quick, because Rob, I gave you short shrift and I apologize for that.
Okay.
Skipped over your presentation. I did have some questions, but I kind of got caught up in the moment. You know, when as you mentioned, Brino Scarn Ridge, just the strike length of that and the grades you're getting there, in my opinion, would justify your current market cap, and really any company operating in the Yukon could rest on those laurels. But tests really lit up the market. And what's fascinating and exciting to me is the worldview spectrum analysis that you've gotten in the key indicator minerals for tests, and how it's associated with jarosite. And if you look at your property position, it sure looks like you've got a lot of jarosite on that property. Could you address that for us?
Yeah, thanks, Brien. You know, one of the things is when you find a new discovery, you need to find the signature for that. Like, what does it look like when it projects the surface? What's the surface expression? And commonly, these deposits are made of sulfides, and they're very crumbly minerals. And when they come to surface, they disintegrate very rapidly. So you don't have big, smooth mineralized outcrops. And jarosite is one of these rusty minerals that has sulfur in it, which is an indicator of mineralization. And when we did our hyperspectral or our satellite imagery on this project, a number of those trends lined up that are coincident with our drill intercepts. So it's a potential calling card to help us navigate where to drill along trend. And that technology really wasn't available 20 years ago. And even some simple things like, aerial photography or LiDAR imagery, which we take for granted nowadays, 20 years ago, that wasn't readily available. And, you can use this new data for new interpretations, for the new structural geology, which is really the key. All of these things are hosted in fault zones, right, that come to surface. And recognizing those and where they trend is absolutely the critical part of the chase.
Yeah, I'm excited. You've got a lot of drilling coming up this year, and I think you're like a kid in a candy store here with all of the targets you have and all the drilling you're going to be able to do. I know you're going to hit it hard as soon as you can. So as a shareholder, I'm very excited about that. Anthony, can you give us a tighter timeline? I don't know if you can, on when you'll be able to actually drill Mojave.
Yeah, we should be drilling there by late March, early April, Brien.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So right around the corner.
Yeah, you bet.
Good.
Yeah.
And Claudia, we have a question coming in, and not to confuse our audience, but can you discuss your Mojave? We might want to start looking at some other kind of naming conventions here, but you also have an exciting project of a similar name.
Yes, it's our second project. Is just like MPD, our flagship, a copper porphyry project, and it is in Arizona. Chris Taylor picked it, and we acquired it at the same time as MPD, but then made in the maiden drill program at MPD a discovery, and so have since then focused on MPD and not on Mojave. But with the market now, we see it as a very good market to actually do something with Mojave. So we are looking at opportunities to crystallize the value of this project. And just yesterday, we had a news release that we staked some extra claims. These are quite important claims that cover some interesting anomalies. And yeah, I would say watch this space. We are looking at options. I think at the moment, Kodiak shareholders don't get any value for that project, and we want to change that and really, daylight the value of that project for our shareholders.
Well, good, everyone. I think we have run right up against our time limit here, our self-imposed time limit. As I speak, gold and silver are up powerfully again today. Again, I think we're in a trading range here where we have regained what we lost yesterday, and we had a nice gain Monday, and I think we're going to be back and forth a little bit. But gold is comfortably over $5,000. Silver is comfortably over $83. I think we've got a lot of the froth blown off of this market. And this is kind of the quiet time I think we're going to have over the next few weeks, perhaps a couple of months in the metals. And that's the time to build positions in junior mining companies that haven't really recognized these extraordinary levels we have in the metals right now. These three companies are, quite frankly, among the best opportunities you're going to find in this market. I would dare to say that if you take positions in these companies and look back a year from now, you're going to be very pleasantly surprised. We have discovery on all three companies. We have de-risking on all three companies. We have the potential for really big discoveries in a market that is going to be increasingly rewarding good news. And I don't know that you're going to find three companies that have the potential to deliver that kind of news to the market any better than these three. So K2 Gold, Prospector Metals, Kodiak Copper, put those on your list, do your due diligence, and I think you can't go wrong with any or all three of these companies. Thank you again for joining us. You can find me at goldnewsletter.com, and you can find all three of these companies at their respective websites. I really urge you to track the exciting events and news and developments coming up. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Brien. It's going to be an exciting year for all of us.
Thank
You
you.
guys.